guys, how you doing? It's Andy Elliott. Check this out. Today we're going to talk about the dealership life. And I want you to understand this. There's a lot of things that I think that go on in the dealership life that is game changing, that if you just open your eyes for a minute, you'll realize how much money that you can make and the quality of life you can have. The first thing I'm going to talk about, you want to watch this whole entire video because I'm going to nail some crazy topics. But one of the first things I'm going to talk about is the golden handcuff syndrome. And if you don't know what this is, so I've been in the car business since I was 18. I'm 40 years old now. I've been doing this for 22 years. And the golden handcuff syndrome is something that it took me a long time to really understand. And I really see salesmen and management and GMs and even owners all get tied up in the golden handcuff syndrome. And I want to tell you what it is, and I want to tell you how you can get ahead of the curve and how to take them handcuffs off. So first of all, the golden handcuff syndrome, let me tell you what it is. So at a very young age, when I started when I was 18, I had nothing. I didn't have a car. I was dead broke. Well, by my second year in the business, I'm making $150,000 a year. So what happens is, because I had come from nothing, and I literally had just, like my number one goal was just to outwork everyone around me and like to learn as much skill as I could about selling, persuasion, influence. What happened is I didn't know any other traits. I just knew selling. And I knew that the car business took really good care of me. So what happened is I ended up putting these gold handcuffs on me because the money got in my veins because I was working so hard all the time. And by the age of 20 to 21 years old, I looked up and this is what my life looked like. I was working from 8 a.m. in the morning, literally until 11 o'clock at night. I was the first one there in the morning and I was the very last one to leave. And I mean, like, I was still taking ups when they were trying to shut the gate. Why? Because the car business has given me such a good life that it was amazing, okay? Now, when I say life, I mean like that equated to money. I learned as a kid, you give your time for money. So when I handed my time over and I went to work, which I gave all my time from 8 a.m. in the morning till 11 o'clock at night, in return, I was making $150,000 a year at a young age. That's called the golden handcuff syndrome. Why? Because can I leave the car business now? No, I can't. I can't leave it. And in order for me to keep up and continue to make more than next year, what will I have to do? One of two things is going to have to happen. One, I'm going to have to increase my skill, right? Then I could work less time. Or two, if my skill don't increase, I'll have to work more time to get that to go up. And in order to maintain and even keep the same level of income, I'm going to have to give exactly what I gave the year before. Now, let's talk about this. What if times aren't great, right? What if I have a good year and the economy's great, right? Like, so we're talking about 2019 right now. Economy's good. There are some things that are changing that I would honestly tell you, I bet there's a recession late 2020, but things are good right now. So if a guy made $120,000 this year and he's working hard, he's got his golden handcuffs on, you know what I'll tell you? What if the economy crashes next year? Well, unless he knows something that his competition don't know, he's screwed. You know why? Because working all that time on the lot and giving his life away to work, it won't help him if he doesn't have the skill. So the golden handcuff syndrome is something I want to talk about in dealership life, that I see lots of guys unhappy. Now listen, this is me talking about 18 to 21. Let's fast forward to a guy who's 25, 30 plus. A guy who's got a wife, a guy who's got kids. I mean, think about this. Can you go to work at 8 in the morning and literally leave at 11 o'clock at night? No ways. Because if you do, you will trade that time for the worst relationship with your wife possible, right? Number one. And number two, you're not even being a father to your children. You can say that I go to work and I work for my family and provide, but your kids don't have anyone raising them, especially not a father. And I'm going to tell you, when you're probably there on the weekends and on your day off, you're probably so mentally exhausted because the body can only sustain so much work in a week that even though you're there, you're probably really not there. So the golden handcuff syndrome is like this. Now you look up in life and you're like, I need out. I don't want this. All right, all that money that I made, it's nothing. I'm basically trading my time for a bunch of money, but I'm giving away my children, I'm giving away my wife, and guess what? I'm literally sitting here unhappy. Now, to the world, you look like you're successful. You really do. To the world, you got your neighbors seeing you in your new car, right? They see your beautiful home. And they're like, God, man, you guys really did well. And inside, you're like smiling because, it's a social media stage where we want to show everybody that you're doing great. And on the outside, it does. But on the inside, your wife's screaming, lead me. Your kids are screaming, lead me. Your work is saying, I need more. And they don't appreciate you anyways, even if they say they do. All right? I'm going to tell you this. Dealership life is like this. And the sooner that everybody understands this, the better that we can all just agree on what it is. Dealerships, their loyalty to you is until their need for you is gone. When their need for you is gone, their loyalty ends at that moment. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but let's just decide to understand it is what it is. So, value your wife. Value your children. Man, value, even if you're on the other end right now, and I'm talking about dealership life, if you're single, right, and you're like, well, I don't have a wife and I don't have kids, but you got to have self-love, right? You got to go to the gym. You got to take care of yourself. There's something that you were passionate about in school growing up or whatever, hanging out with your friends. You got to do that stuff to love yourself, because if you don't love yourself and then you start giving everything you have to work, but there's no love, then guess what? Inside, you start to go cold. You start to go dark, okay? It's like being a wolf. I want you to be a wolf. I want you to be hungry, and I want you to attack, but also I want you to be loving and kind, okay? So that was one of the first things I wanted to talk about, was the golden handcuff syndrome. How a lot of guys get in this business, and I've got a couple of topics I want to talk about, but that's one of them. And if you notice yourself that you're like, man, in some form of some way in my life, I've got those golden handcuffs on. Like, honestly, like, I've made a good living in the car business, and I do give all my time to the store. I honestly have neglected the family. Don't lie to yourself. Man, do you know how you fix it? You fix it with one thing. It's called learned skill. Learned skill. Let me tell you what learned skill is. Learned skill is you're recession proof. Learned skill is you know what your competition don't know, and you work differently than everyone else in your dealership. You are the 1%er and you look different than everybody, and that's what makes you special. And if the economy crashes and it gets hard, you'll still kill them, okay? So I want to talk about, that's called learned skill. Where do you get that from? A, I'll teach it to you. Or B, you get out there and you learn it from someone in the world that can teach it to you, and they model it themselves, because society lies to you, okay? On Facebook, Instagram, every time I scroll through, right? I was looking at this deal, Elon Musk the other day. He says, work 90 hours a week, right? That's how I got him. Work 90 hours a week. And I'm like, okay, wow, man. I mean, I get it. Like, hey, I've been through that grind. I mean it. But how long can you sustain that? I mean, truthfully, how long can you sustain? I believe that there's 60 minutes in an hour. There's 60 minutes in an hour. And how you work 60 minutes in that hour is what really matters. And I can go to work at a car dealership and I can work for 3 hours, 60 minutes in that hour, and I can work more than what a guy's working in a 15-hour shift. I can sell probably 2 to 3 times as many cars, and guess what? I'll be happy, I'll have a fulfilled life, and most importantly, I'll be happy inside and out. So with that being said, we talk about the golden handcuff syndrome. Guys, you can work 40 to 50 hours a week in a car dealership. I think that that's fine. But you have to become deadly on the internet. You have to become deadly at closing negotiations, overcoming objections, deadly word tracks. You have to be high in all those critical areas. And really, really something that's important is that you have to understand that they're dying to put those handcuffs on you. Don't be like everyone else. Don't let them put them on you, because they're golden. They trick you. All right, there's a couple things I want to go over today, all right? And let's talk about them. My kids. Look at that. Crazy. Trying to set me up here. All right, let's go to the next page. Here we go. All right. We're going to talk about ignoring the haters, okay? I got a couple topics I want to talk about, but I want you to stay with me here because haters will keep you from preventing your dreams. All right? No one wants to see you make it, okay? Ignore the haters. There's guys wanting to do good and grow and kill it versus guys that have a sign on their desk. So I always say this, right? You got a new guy that comes into the store. And I get contacted daily by new salesmen. They're like, hey, Andy, I'm just getting in, 1, 2, 3 years and under. And they're like, I want to get better. I want to do this. And guess what happens? They're ready and they're reaching out to go to that next level and they want to make that big money. Do you know what? But that guy that put a sign on his desk a long time ago that said, hey, I stopped learning a long time ago, right? He's got that sign on his desk. He's in your dealership. You know who he is. He may be you. That guy, he's drowning. And when the recession hits, he's going to be crying like a little baby. You know what? Everybody right now that understands and knows the internet like the back of their hand, right? They are going to make it. I'm going to tell you, in 2020, every single salesman that's partnering with me on the back side of this screen, they will make $250,000 minimum, $300,000. What happened? It's real easy. Guys, do the math. You'll be selling 25 cars a month. You'll be running $800 per commission per deal. 25 times 800 per commission per deal, that's $270,000 to $300,000 a year. Selling 25 cars a month. Why? Because there's two things that we do. One, we sell more cars, and two, we raise our gross profit, okay? But if you're not a great closer, when your customers are coming in to deal with you, right? If you're not a great closer and you actually sound like you're getting caught up, or maybe you're not good at negotiating, or you don't sound like an investor or an advisor and you sound like that car dealer across the street, guess what happens? You're going to get smoked. And those customers are going to feel friction, and you know what they're going to say? They're going to say no, and they're going to walk away. And also, I want to share something else with you. Remember, people in life, if you're 80, I didn't say 50%, if you're 85% in, and you know your job 85%, the customers will still tell you no and walk away because they smell that 15% of uncertainty on you. You have to be 100% in this business. Cockiness and arrogance is out the window. They hate it. I hate it. Confidence is key. And where does confidence come from? Confidence comes from competence. And competence comes from learn skill, and training. Okay? So, don't let that hater that has that sign on his desk that said, hey, I quit learning a long time ago, stop you from growing and going to the next level. I've got guys that are coming to my seminar December 13th and 14th. And they've talked to their GMs, they've talked to managers, and guess what happens? They say, oh, no, you shouldn't do that. We'll teach you that here. We give you our own training. Guys, I'm going to share something with you. Do me a favor. Ask them, say, hey, awesome. Would you mind showing me your year to date when you sold cars? Can I see it? Because I'm going to tell you, if you're dealing with a sales manager that made $80,000 to $100,000 a year when he sold cars, guys, you can make $80,000 to $100,000 a year with your eyes shut in the car business. I'm talking about you making $300,000, $400,000 like you should be. Okay? Quit aiming so low. But guess what? You are an average of the 5 people that you're around the most. So since you're around them a lot, maybe that's what happened. So stay away from the haters. All right. Most people are not being hustlers. All right, let's talk about this. Most people just want to pay the bills. When I talk about this, when I was a kid, right now in life, any point in my life, I've always hustled hard, okay? There's something called IQ and there's something called EQ, right? Now, we all know what IQ is, right? IQ is that test you take in school. They give you an IQ test and you see where you score, all right? Here's the deal. I'm not great at taking tests. I still have a decent IQ, but my EQ kills my IQ. EQ is like people knowledge, people skills, the way that you're able to work and read people, all right? I teach that, and I want to explain this to you so you understand this. If you want to be a killer hustler, if you want to make a lot of money, you got to learn to read people. Guys, there's product knowledge and there's people knowledge. If I had product knowledge, if you worked at a new Ford dealership, okay, and there's a Ford store here, and a Ford store here, there's one salesman here, he has killer people knowledge, and this guy at the same store has killer product knowledge. Which guy do you think will make more money? The product knowledge king or the people knowledge king? Guys, the product knowledge guy is going to make $3,500 a month to $5,000 if he's lucky. This guy's going to make $10,000 to $15,000. Why? He knows nothing about the product, but you know what he knows everything about? The people. And who are the one paying your bills? The people. Guys, I'm going to tell you right now, you need to get set and understand that you have got to learn to be a hustler, okay? And I didn't say hustle people, be a hustler, like work hard and learn the skill that it takes to do this job at a high level, to become a high achiever in life, man. I mean, it's time for you guys to burn the boat and swim to the island and decide you're going to take over your store. And then once you take over your store, take over your state, and then take over this country in selling. Okay? So I want to talk about this. There's a gel here. And for some reason, these guys that aren't these hustlers, this may be you, they go to work just to pay their bills. So when I say this, you go to work and you trade your time for money, but just enough money to go home and pay your bills. Guys, I want to tell you, you either need to do one or two things. Number one, quit buying so much stupid stuff, okay? Because what's happening is you're forcing yourself to have to make more money to pay for stuff that you bought to impress people that don't even like you, that you don't even like, okay? And then secondly, when I talk about like that jailhouse, maybe it is that maybe you don't need to make more money. Maybe you just need to quit spending money stupidly. But in this business that we're in the sales industry, guys, it's a $60 trillion year business right now. There's like 2 millionaires that were made last year just in the U.S. Over the whole, like the whole world, there was like 4 millionaires, or there was like, let's see right here. Yeah, there was like, guys, I'm telling you, I'll bet you in 2020, and I'm reading it right here, I bet in 2020, I bet in the United States, I bet there's probably 4 million new millionaires that'll be made next year. The deal is, one of them could be you. It could be your story. You could be the next guy. And you know what? Maybe that's unrealistic. It could be you making $500,000. But I'm going to tell you this. You're not going to get there by trying to make enough money to pay your bills. You've got to stay a hustler. So as I was trying to read these stats, I just like to tell you, it's just crazy on the numbers that it is. So execution's key. Probably something short I want to talk to you about. Okay? So standing out front and taking ups, you can make about 80 to 120 grand a year. You guys know who you are. You stand outside, you take ups. Listen, you got a great job. You got the golden handcuffs on, because I know if you're only living in the fresh up world, guess what? You're working from 80 to 120 hours a week. I mean, you're making 80 to 120 grand a year, which is probably is working 80 hours a week. Guess what? You're trading a ton of time to get that money. So you're having to work constantly. Guys, the guys that are getting involved on the internet and then are understanding it and learning it, which means understanding Craigslist like the back of your hand, Facebook remarketing, Facebook Marketplace, Facebook targeting, right? Guys that are understanding how to get their hands on anything to create their own internet departments within themselves, those are the guys that are going to make 300 grand this year. And then probably the last thing that I want to end with the show, this is something that you guys literally this is what habits, self-discipline, okay? And just doing the work. Those are the things that are probably going to take you the farthest as I end this out in dealership life. Guys, people in dealerships, it's like they crowd in circles. Cool corner is over, okay? I want to share with you, it is lonely at the top. You have to be alone. You cannot crowd with anyone else. And there's honestly not very many people to look up to in your stores where you're at. So you need to honestly stay focused on what your goal is, what your vision is. You need to stay a loner. You need to outwork everyone in the store. There's 60 minutes in an hour. You got to work 60 minutes in that hour. You've got to learn the internet game like the back of your hand. Even if you don't like the internet, it needs to become your new best friend, because that's the way you're going to make that $1 million a year selling cars, becoming a GM. And then honestly, when you learn this, imagine this, guys, you're running your own store in the dealership life, and guess what? You're teaching it to all your guys. And you guys got the one store out there that's not asleep at the wheel, that's crushing it. Okay? So guys, I hope you love this. Have a great day. And these are some great tips that we have in the dealership life.